2 seconds. That's how long the slap echoed. How long it took for Abigay Brown's palm to crack against a stranger's face, feel the sharp sting bloom across her own hand, and realize she'd just crossed a line that didn't exist until she'd drawn it in blood. The elevator didn't hum anymore. It held its breath. She pulled back, heart slamming against her ribs like it wanted out, expecting rage or maybe violence. Instead, she found something far more terrifying. Calculation. Dong-Suk's eyes locked onto hers through the mirrored wall like a predator confirming its prey, dark and depthless and absolutely still. He was towering, not in the gym-sculpted way of men who performed strength, but in the way of men who embodied threat. His frame consumed the narrow space. His silence devoured sound. The tattoos crawling up his neck disappeared beneath the collar of a shirt too expensive for anyone who worked in this building, and his hands, God, his hands, hung at his sides like loaded guns on safety. One of them rose slowly to his cheek. Touched where she'd struck him. No flinch. No fury. Just interest. The red ceiling lights bathed them both in crimson, painting the moment in warning she should have heeded. Behind them, a woman covered her mouth. Another backed into the corner, eyes wide. But Dong-Suk never looked away from Abigay. Never blinked. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice because the world had already learned to tremble at his footsteps. The elevator chimed. Doors slid open like an exhale. He stepped out first, shoulders cutting through the light, leaving her standing there with adrenaline still screaming through her veins and her hands still burning from contact. No words. No threats. Just the weight of his gaze as he disappeared into the corridor, and the blinking red dot of a security camera above the doorframe. That's when Abigay Brown understood, she hadn't just slapped a rude stranger. She'd declared war on a king. If you are ready to enjoy this thrilling story, click subscribe right now and tell me where in the world you are listening from. I would be glad to know this story reaches every part of the world. Now, let me take you back to where all the drama began. Abigay made it exactly 43 minutes into her morning meeting before her carefully constructed composure shattered. The conference room was all glass and polished steel, 15 floors below where the slap had happened. She'd spent the night convincing herself it was over, just another elevator encounter in a city of 10 million strangers. The man wouldn't report it. Couldn't possibly care enough to track her down. She was presenting quarterly projections when the door opened. The CEO's assistant, a woman who'd barely acknowledged Abigay all week, stepped inside. Her face was colorless. Miss Brown. You're needed upstairs. I'm in the middle of. Now. The word came out like an obituary. Penthouse level. Private elevator only. The room went silent. Every executive at the table suddenly found their laptops fascinating. Abigay knew what penthouse level meant. She'd seen the building directory. Floor 49 wasn't listed for any company. No signage. No public access. Whoever owned that floor owned everything beneath it. The private elevator had no buttons. Just a keycard slot and a camera that tracked her face the entire 60-second climb. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space that didn't belong in a corporate tower, dark wood, ambient lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul like a kingdom laid bare. And standing at the glass, hands clasped behind his back, was the man from yesterday. Same ink crawling up his neck. Same tailored menace. Same unreadable expression that made her skin feel too tight. He didn't turn around. Miss Brown. Please, sit. She didn't. Who are you? Someone you assaulted. He touched a tablet on the desk. The wall screen flickered to life. Security footage. High definition. Timestamp, 17 hours 43 minutes and 22 seconds. Abigay watched herself step into the elevator. Watched the tension coil. Watched her hand fly across his face in perfect, damning clarity. Audio caught the slap, the gasp, the terrible silence after. He paused the video on her expression, wild-eyed, furious, beautiful in her defiance. Assault, he said quietly, carries serious consequences in South Korea. Especially when committed against, he turned finally, and his eyes were glacial, the man who owns this building. And the three surrounding it. And the security company that monitors every camera you just saw. Her throat went dry. What do you want? Your resume is impressive. Corporate crisis management. Image rehabilitation. You buried scandals for men who deserved prison. He stepped closer. I need someone with your particular skill set. I'm not interested in whatever. I'm offering you a position. Strategic consultant. Competitive salary. Immediate start. Abigay's laugh came out sharp. You think I'd work for someone who blackmails? I think, he interrupted, voice dropping to something razor-edged, you'll consider your options carefully. Because the alternative is me sending this footage to the Korean National Police. Along with documentation of your visa status. Your work authorization. Your complete lack of legal standing to refuse cooperation. The room tilted. He'd done his homework. Known exactly who she was before she'd ever stepped into that elevator. This wasn't chance. This was strategy. Why me? The question escaped before she could stop it. He smiled then, the same predatory curve from yesterday. Most people who meet me either bow or run. You struck me across the face in front of witnesses and walked away like you'd done nothing wrong. He extended his hand. Formal. Deliberate. My name is Dong-Suk. And I don't punish courage, Miss Brown. His fingers weighted in the space between them. I recruit it. Abigay didn't take his hand. I'm not interested in whatever empire you're building. Find someone else. She turned toward the elevator, each step measured, refusing to let him see the tremor starting in her knees. TechCorp Industries. Hanover Financial. The Meridian Group. She froze. Should I continue? Dong-Suk's voice remained pleasant, conversational, as if he were listing dinner reservations instead of detonating her entire career. You have quite the talent for making evidence disappear. Emails. Testimonies. Entire paper trails, gone. How many executives did you save from prison, Miss Brown? 4? 5? He slid a manila folder across the desk. It landed with the weight of a guillotine blade. She didn't want to look. Looked anyway. Her own handwriting stared back. Emails she'd thought were deleted. NDAs she'd drafted. A memo outlining exactly how to bury harassment claims against a CEO who'd later been quietly removed. Legal, technically. Morally? The kind of gray that could end careers. Or start prosecutions. That's leverage. He settled into the chair behind his desk like a king on a throne. Work for me, and these stay private. Decline, and I send copies to every ethics board, media outlet, and law firm that would salivate over this kind of scandal. Your visa gets revoked. Your reputation becomes a cautionary tale. And that consulting contract you're so proud of? Terminated before lunch. Abigay's hands curled into fists. You son of a. Sign. He pushed a contract forward. Or lose everything you've built. The pen felt like a shackle. Her signature looked like surrender. Dong-Suk collected the contract without ceremony, slid it into a drawer, and stood. Welcome to the organization. Let me show you what you'll be managing. The operations floor was nothing like she expected. No smoke-filled rooms. No violence. Just rows of sleek workstations, people in business attire speaking quietly into headsets, tracking numbers across multiple screens. It looked like any tech startup, except the data flowing past showed shipping routes, financial transfers, parcels moving through ports with surgical precision. We operate 23 legitimate businesses, Dong-Suk explained, hands in his pockets, tour guide casual. Real estate. Import-export. Tech infrastructure. All legal. All profitable. And the illegal parts? Are why you're here. He stopped at a glass-walled office where a man sat reviewing documents. Sharp suit. Sharper eyes. The kind of man who calculated risks before breakfast. Dong-Suk knocked once. Min-jun. Our new strategic consultant. Min-jun stood, offered a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and extended his hand. Welcome, Miss Brown. I handle internal operations. Anything you need, I'm your point of contact. His grip was firm. Professional. But something about the way he assessed her, like she was a problem requiring a solution, made her skin crawl. Min-jun has been with me since the beginning, Dong-Suk continued. Knows every aspect of our organization. You'll work closely. Looking forward to it, Min-jun said smoothly. Liar, Abigay thought. They were all liars here. Including her now. Back in the penthouse, Dong-Suk handed her a phone. Secure line. Use this for all communications. Your old devices are compromised. By you? By everyone. He moved toward the window. Dismissal. Start tomorrow. 8 sharp. Min-jun will brief you on current projects. She should leave. Should run. Should do anything except stand there feeling like she'd just sold her soul with a ballpoint pen. The new phone buzzed in her hand. Unknown number. But the message made her blood freeze. I'm sorry. I never meant for this. Only one person knew she was in Seoul. Only one person had recommended this job, this building, this specific consulting contract. Her best friend. Abigay looked up at Dong-Suk's reflection in the glass. He was already watching her. Waiting. Something wrong, Miss Brown? Everything, she wanted to scream. Instead, she pocketed the phone and walked toward the elevator, her new prison closing around her with every step. Abigay found Jessica at their usual cafe in Gangnam, the one with overpriced Americanos and Wi-Fi that barely worked. Her best friend since business school sat hunched over her laptop, looking smaller than Abigay remembered. She didn't bother sitting down. How much did he pay you? Jessica's face drained of color. The laptop snapped shut. How? Much. 50,000. The words came out broken. Wired to an account I'd never seen before. Instructions were simple, recommend you for the consulting contract. Make sure you showed up on time. Specific building. Specific day. Abigay's vision blurred at the edges. You sold me. I didn't know what it was for. The email said corporate headhunter, that someone wanted to recruit you for. Jessica's voice cracked. I thought I was helping. You needed the work. The money was, God, Abi, I have student loans drowning me. My mother's medical bills. So you traded me for $50,000 and didn't ask questions? I asked. The replies were automated. Professional. I traced the account, dead end. Shell company in the Caymans. Jessica reached for her hand. Abigay stepped back. By the time I realized something was wrong, you were already in Seoul. Already trapped. Abigay's laugh tasted like acid. He planned everything. The job offer. The timing. Even me being in that elevator at that exact moment. Jessica's eyes widened. What elevator? But Abigay was already walking away, the betrayal settling into her bones like radiation poisoning. Dong-Suk was in the penthouse gym when she found him, shirtless, methodically destroying a heavy bag with wrapped fists. Each impact precise. Controlled. The tattoos covering his back told stories in ink she couldn't read. He didn't stop when she entered. You spoke to your friend. You engineered everything. Statement, not question. Yes. Another punch. The bag swung violently. I've been tracking you for 6 months. Read every article you've published. Every case you've managed. Watched how you operate, fearless, efficient, morally flexible when necessary. So you bought my best friend and staged an encounter? I created an opportunity. He caught the bag, finally turning to face her. Sweat gleamed on his skin. Most consultants I could hire are Korean. Connected to families. To rivals. To loyalties I can't control. You're foreign. Unattached. Smart enough to be useful, desperate enough to be compliant. And the elevator? I needed to see how you'd react under pressure. Whether you'd bow or break. His smile was almost admiring. You did neither. You struck back. Abigay moved closer, anger propelling her forward until they stood 2 feet apart. Close enough to smell copper and expensive cologne. Close enough to see the calculation in his eyes shift into something else. You manipulated my entire life to get me here. I gave you an opportunity disguised as chaos. His voice dropped lower. And now you're exactly where you need to be. Where's that? Alive. He held her gaze. Working for me means protection. Resources. Power. Working against me means. The doors burst open. Min-jun, usually composed, looked shattered. Sir. We have a problem. Dong-Suk's entire demeanor shifted, from dangerously seductive to lethally focused in half a heartbeat. Speak. Intelligence just confirmed it. The park syndicate is moving. They know about the waterfront acquisition. Min-jun's eyes flicked to Abigay, then back. They're planning to hit you at the charity gala tomorrow night. Silence. Then Dong-Suk smiled, the kind that promised violence delivered cold. Good. Let them come. The Shilla Hotel ballroom glittered like a jewel box, crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, Seoul's elite draped in designer armor. Abigay had transformed Dong-Suk for this moment, bespoke Tom Ford tuxedo covering his tattoos, hair styled back, dangerous edges polished into corporate respectability. He looked like a king pretending to be a businessman. She'd done her job too well. Smile, she whispered, adjusting his bow tie. You're supposed to be a legitimate real estate mogul, not a mass murderer? His lips curved. That's tomorrow's headline. Around them, photographers snapped. Executives glad-handed. Donations pledged for children's hospitals while men who'd ordered killings clinked glasses. The hypocrisy was suffocating. Dong-Suk offered his hand. Dance with me. Not a request. The orchestra swelled into something slow and dangerous. His palm pressed against her lower back, proprietary, as they moved onto the floor. Other couples gave them space, whether from respect or fear, Abigay couldn't tell. You're too tense, he murmured, pulling her closer. They can smell fear. I'm not afraid. Liar. His breath ghosted across her ear. You've been scanning exits since we arrived. Counting security. Calculating escape routes. Shouldn't I be? You said they're coming. They're already here. His hand tightened on her waist. But so am I. The words shouldn't have felt like protection. Shouldn't have made her pull Spike for reasons that had nothing to do with danger. But his body was solid against hers, and the way he moved, controlled, certain, like violence set to music, made something shift in her chest. Then she saw it. Red dot. Faint. Traveling across his shoulder blade. Dong-Suk. He spun her. Hard. Fast. His body rotating in front of hers just as the sound cracked through the ballroom. The bullet hit him instead. Time fractured. Dong-Suk's weight collapsed into her arms. Blood bloomed across white shirt. Screaming erupted. Chandeliers swayed as bodies stampeded toward exits. She caught him, barely, his weight dragging them both toward the floor. Stay down, he gasped, hand pressed to his shoulder. Red seeped between his fingers. Abigay, stay. But she'd already seen the second gunman. Not on a roof. Not distant. Right there, in the service hallway, raising his weapon again, aiming for Dong-Suk's head. Her hand found metal. Heavy. Cold. Dong-Suk's gun had fallen during the impact. She didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Her body moved on instinct, training from a self-defense clash years ago, adrenaline overriding terror. She raised the weapon. Sighted down the barrel. The assassin's eyes widened. She pulled the trigger. The recoil slammed through her wrists. The sound deafened. The man dropped, a flower of red exploding across his chest as he crumpled into linen-covered tables. Silence. Then chaos, real chaos. Security swarming. Min-jun appearing from nowhere, dragging Dong-Suk toward a side exit. Hands pulling at Abigay. Voices shouting in Korean. She stumbled forward, legs disconnected from her brain. The gun slipped from her fingers. She looked down. Blood. So much blood. On her dress. Her hands. Under her manicured nails. Some of it was Dong-Suk's. Most of it wasn't. In the shattered mirror of a toppled champagne tower, Abigay saw her reflection, mascara smeared, hair wild, crimson splattered across her cheekbones like war paint. She looked like someone else. Someone who'd just killed a man. And the most terrifying part? The part that made her stomach twist and her breath catch? She'd do it again. The safe house smelled like antiseptic and old wood, a penthouse apartment in Gangnam stripped of luxury, reduced to function. Medical supplies covered the dining table. Blood-soaked tuxedo jacket discarded on marble floor. Dong-Suk sat shirtless on the couch, jaw clenched as Minjun's doctor extracted the bullet from his shoulder. He didn't flinch. Didn't make a sound. Just stared at the wall with that same cold focus that made grown men confess sins. Abigay stood by the window, still in her ruined gown, unable to stop shaking. Through and through, the doctor muttered in accented English. Missed the bone. You're lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. Dong-Suk's eyes found Abigay across the room. She moved faster than the bullet. The doctor packed the wound, administered antibiotics, left without ceremony. Minjun followed, securing the perimeter. Suddenly it was just the two of them and the silence between bodies that had nearly died together. You should sit, Dong-Suk said quietly. I killed someone. The words felt foreign in her mouth. I shot a man in the chest and watched him fall. You saved my life. That's not, her voice cracked. I'm not supposed to be this person. What person? He stood slowly, wincing, and crossed to her. Someone who survives? Someone who fights back when cornered? A killer. You're not a killer, Abigay. His hand, the one not bandaged, tilted her chin up until she met his eyes. Killers enjoy it. You're just someone who refused to watch me die. The gentleness in his touch unraveled something inside her. Tears came without permission, hot and furious. She tried to turn away. He wouldn't let her. I can't go back, she whispered. Can't return to consulting. To normal meetings and expense reports, and pretending tonight didn't happen. No. You can't. The police will rule it self-defense. I own the security footage. The investigation. The narrative. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, wiping away blood she hadn't realized was still there. You're under my protection now. Completely. That should terrify me. Does it? His voice dropped lower, rougher. She should say yes. Should pull away. Should remember this man blackmailed her, trapped her, orchestrated her entire descent into his world. Instead, she leaned into his palm. No, she breathed. It doesn't. Something shifted in his expression, the cold calculation melting into something raw, almost human. He moved closer, careful of his injury, until she could feel the heat radiating off his skin. You could have run tonight. Could have let me bleed out and disappeared. I know. Why didn't you? Because watching him fall felt like losing something she didn't know she needed. Because his weight in her arms had been the most terrifying and real moment of her life. Because somewhere between the blackmail and the bullet, he'd stopped being her captor and become something infinitely more dangerous. Her anchor. I don't know, she lied. His lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. Liar. Before she could respond, his phone vibrated. Once. Twice. The third time, he checked it. Every trace of warmth vanished from his face. What? Abigay's chest tightened. What is it? Dong-Suk's fingers tightened around the phone until his knuckles went white. The shooter tonight wasn't working alone. Someone inside my organization gave him our route. Our timeline. His eyes met hers, and they were black with rage. Someone I trusted fed us to the wolves. The room felt colder. A traitor, Abigay whispered. Yes. He set the phone down with surgical precision. And tomorrow, we find out who. They found the evidence at 3 a.m. Financial records pulled from encrypted servers. Wire transfers to a shell corporation in Singapore. Communication logs showing someone had been feeding the Park Syndicate intelligence for 6 months, guard rotations, business deals, every move Dong-Suk made. The digital trail led to one person. Minjun. Abigay's hands went numb as she stared at the screen. The man who'd welcomed her. Who'd coordinated her integration into the organization. Who'd looked so concerned when Dong-Suk was shot. Bring him in, Dong-Suk said, voice empty of inflection. 20 minutes later, Minjun entered the safe house looking composed. Professional. Until he saw the evidence displayed across 3 monitors. His face crumbled. How long have you known? Minjun's voice came out hollow. Since the first transfer. Dong-Suk stood with his back to the window, silhouetted against Seoul's glittering skyline. I let you continue. Wanted to see how far you'd go. My father chose betrayal over loyalty. I gave him a chance to walk away. Dong-Suk's tone never changed, clinical and cold. He chose to steal from me instead. To sell our operations to the Yakuza. You know what happens to traitors. Min-jun's hands trembled. You executed him in front of his family. I executed a thief who endangered everyone under my protection. Dong-Suk stepped forward. Including you. I raised you afterward. Trained you. Trusted you with everything. You killed my father. Min-jun's composure shattered. You took him from me and expected me to serve you? To smile and call you sir while his blood was still on your hands? Yes. Simple. Final. Because he earned his death. And now, so have you. The gun appeared so fast Abigay barely registered the movement. One moment Dong-Suk stood empty-handed. The next, black metal gleamed in his grip. Wait, Abigay stepped forward. Dong-Suk's free hand raised. Stop. His eyes never left Min-jun. You fed them my route. My timeline. You put Abigay in the crosshairs. His voice finally changed, dropped into something arctic and absolute. That wasn't about your father. That was about watching me suffer. I wanted you to feel what I felt. Min-jun's voice broke. To lose someone you. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Min-jun crumpled. No last words. No dramatic collapse. Just gravity claiming a body that used to hold a person. Silence. Dong-Suk lowered the weapon. Turned to face Abigay. His expression was completely neutral, as if he'd just concluded a business transaction rather than ended a life. This is who I am. No apology. No justification. This is the world you're in now. If you can't accept that. I understand. The words surprised her. But watching Min-jun fall, she'd felt something unexpected. Not horror. Not revulsion. Relief. Because Min-jun had tried to kill them both. Had smiled while planning their deaths. Had turned loyalty into a weapon. And Dong-Suk had protected them the only way his world allowed. Do you? He searched her face. Because there's no middle ground here. You're either with me completely, or I'm with you. She held his gaze. Completely. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe. Or recognition. Before either could speak, Abigay's phone vibrated. New message. Unknown number. Her blood turned to ice as she read it. Abigay. It's Marcus. We need to talk. I'm in Seoul. And I know what you've gotten yourself into. Her ex-lover. The prosecutor who'd walked away when her moral lines started blurring. Now he was here. Dong-Suk read the message over her shoulder. His jaw tightened. How convenient, he said quietly, that he appears now. The Seoul International Business Summit was being broadcast to 43 countries. Abigay stood backstage in a designer suit she hadn't chosen, watching Dong-Suk address 2,000 executives and 36 cameras. He looked impeccable, the bullet wound hidden beneath tailored perfection, his speech about corporate responsibility delivered with the sincerity of a man who'd never ordered an execution. She'd written every word. And finally, Dong-Suk's voice echoed through the convention center, I must address a serious matter. Abigay's pulse stuttered. This wasn't in the script. My organization recently discovered financial irregularities. An investigation revealed that my strategic consultant, Miss Abigay Brown, has been embezzling funds through shell accounts. He paused, letting the words detonate. Approximately $2.3 million over 3 months. The auditorium erupted. Cameras swung toward the wings where Abigay stood frozen. Her face, shock, betrayal, horror, projected on screens 10 feet tall. No, the word died in her throat. Security appeared. Professional. Efficient. Hands on her arms, steering her toward the exit while reporters swarmed like sharks scenting blood. Miss Brown. Did you steal the money? Were you working with rival syndicates? How does it feel to betray? The questions battered her as they dragged her through service corridors. Camera flashes turned the world into stuttering snapshots. Her name, the one she'd built through years of careful work, was being incinerated in real time. By the time they deposited her in an underground parking garage, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. A black sedan waited. Door open. Dong-Suk in the back seat, expression unreadable. Get in. She should run. Should scream. Should do anything except comply. She got in. The door closed. Soundproof glass sealed them from the world. His driver pulled into Seoul traffic without a word. You destroyed me. Her voice came out broken. My reputation. My career. Everything I saved you. He turned to face her. Marcus isn't just your ex-lover. He's the prosecutor leading the investigation into the Park Syndicate. He's in Seoul to flip someone inside my organization. Ice flooded her veins. Me. You. Dong-Suk pulled up a tablet. Messages. Wiretap transcripts. Marcus coordinating with rival gangs, promising immunity in exchange for testimony against Dong-Suk. He would have approached you within 48 hours. Offered you protection. A deal. Freedom. So you made me radioactive. Understanding crashed through her. No credibility. No reputation. Worthless as a witness. Hidden as a threat. His hand found hers. The Park Syndicate thinks you're discarded. Marcus thinks you're compromised. But you're the only person I trust completely now. Because I killed for you. Because you chose me. His grip tightened. And now I need you for the final play. Abigay looked at their joined hands, his scarred and brutal, hers stained with blood that wouldn't wash away no matter how hard she scrubbed. What play? Dong-Suk's smile was all predator. Marcus wants inside information. The Park Syndicate wants revenge. Both of them are about to get exactly what they're asking for. He leaned closer. Through you. You want me to be the bait. I want you to be the trap. His eyes burned with something between fury and devotion. Walk into their meeting. Let them think you're broken. Desperate. Ready to betray me. While you're listening. While I'm watching. His thumb traced her wrist. One conversation. One wire. And I end this war permanently. She should refuse. Should draw a line somewhere in the descent from consultant to killer to spy. Instead, she felt something settle in her chest. Purpose. Clarity. The acceptance that she'd stopped falling and started choosing. When? Tomorrow night. Abigay nodded once. Final. Tell me everything. Marcus looked exactly the same, sharp suit, perfect smile, the kind of moral certainty that had once made Abigay believe in justice. Now it just looked like arrogance. They met at a cafe in Itaewon, far enough from Dong-Suk's territory to feel safe. Marcus didn't know about the wire taped between her ribs. Didn't know Dong-Suk was 3 blocks away, listening to every word through an earbud, watching through traffic cameras. You look like hell, Marcus said, reaching for her hand. She let him take it. Publicly accused of embezzlement tends to do that. Abigay. His voice dropped into that prosecutor tone, sympathetic, strategic. I know what he is. What he's made you do. I can protect you. Full immunity. Witness protection. A new life away from. What do you want, Marcus? His eyes flickered. Information. Financial records. Names of his international contacts. Testimony about his operations. He leaned closer. Help me take him down, and you walk away clean. She let silence stretch. Let him see her consider it. The wire picked up every breath. The Park Syndicate, she said carefully. They're involved, aren't they? Marcus's smile confirmed everything. They're willing to provide additional evidence. Cooperate fully. All they need is someone on the inside to coordinate. She pulled her hand back. You're not building a case. You're facilitating a war. I'm removing a cancer from this city. His mask slipped. Dong-Suk has corrupted everything he touches. Including you. The woman I knew would never have. Killed someone? The word made him flinch. Good. You're right. She wouldn't have. But that woman died in an elevator 3 weeks ago. Then let me help you get her back. Abigay stood. There's a meeting. Tomorrow night. Warehouse District. Dong-Suk's finalizing a major shipment. I can get you inside. Marcus's eyes lit with predatory satisfaction. You're sure? I'm sure I can't do this anymore. She let her voice break perfectly. I just want out. He bought it completely. 24 hours later, Abigay walked through rain-slicked streets toward the warehouse. Black tactical gear. Gun holstered at her hip. Wire active. Dong-Suk's voice a whisper in her ear. For hostiles inside. Marcus. 3 Park Syndicate enforcers. My team has the perimeter. Understood. Abigay. His tone shifted. If this goes wrong. It won't. She wasn't afraid anymore. Fear required uncertainty. Doubt. The belief that she was still someone who could be saved. That woman was gone. The woman walking toward this warehouse had slapped a Mafia boss and started a war. Had killed an assassin without hesitation. Had watched executions and felt relief instead of horror. Had let her reputation burn because the man who orchestrated it was the only honest thing in her life. She wasn't a victim. Wasn't a pawn. She was a weapon. And tonight, she was exactly where she chose to be. The warehouse doors loomed ahead, rusted metal, shadows beyond. Marcus waited inside with men who wanted Dong-Suk dead. Who'd tried to kill her. Who thought she was broken enough to betray everything. They were wrong. Abigay's hand touched the door. Cold metal. Final threshold. Behind her, somewhere in the darkness, Dong-Suk and his army waited for her signal. Inside, Marcus and his allies prepared to spring their trap. Neither side knew the truth. She was the trap. The bait. The blade. Everything that had happened, every manipulation, every betrayal, every drop of blood, had led to this moment. The slap that echoed through an elevator had become a declaration of war. And Abigay Brown was no longer running from it. She was ruling beside it. She pushed the doors open and stepped into the darkness. No turning back.